recently we said that waves then have these characteristics. Waves are traveling with a certain velocity down the road. Waves have a certain wavelength, distance between two troughs or two ridges or two compressions. That's the wavelength of the repeating unit. And then they have a frequency. And frequency is, if you're standing one point, how many waves pass that point in 1 second. So for instance, frequency, we said that would be per second, waves per second. We said, and actually we're going to do a problem where wavelength is in meters. And how fast is your wave going, the velocity of the wave? Well, how about let's go with meters per second. Now in physical science, I really emphasize what the units are when you go to set up the problem. And can you see where these units are great? On either side of the equal sign we have meters per second, meters per second. So for any wave, this holds true with regard to the velocity of that wave, the wavelength of that wave, and the frequency of that wave. So one of the things you know is we can rearrange these three variables, and it would look something like this. Let's see if we did. Oop. It's coming. Hold that thought. I had to kind of trick it. There we go. See there at the bottom? It's the same three variables. Now it's rearranged with frequency by itself. So all we did was, what did we do? One way to think of it maybe is we divided both sides by wavelength. And dividing both sides by wavelength, we get frequency by itself is equal to velocity divided by wavelength. Okay, and the units work out just great too. One more thing is we could divide, what is my last one? I have to kind of go backwards here. One last, same relationship, just getting wavelength by itself. We could divide both sides by frequency, and we get the wavelength by itself is equal to the velocity of the wave divided by its frequency. Now, if you don't want to know all three of those, if you just actually remember this one, then that will get you down the road to all three relationships. So let's work a problem. Shall we? Maybe. Goodness. Okay, there. That's the problem I want to work. So up here at the top, you could have a question like this on the test. Now remember, I'm going to give you equations for your test, so don't worry about memorizing. I probably will only give you that first equation, where velocity is equal to frequency times wavelength. But in this one, working problems, I like to go ahead and pull out the information that's given. This is my doodle part. So notice we're talking about sound, which is kind of fun. We have sound traveling through air at a speed of, and I'm going to go ahead and call that velocity, speed or velocity of 344 meters per 1 second, meters per second. And it goes ahead and tells us the wavelength. I'm going to go ahead and use my fancy lambda. Wavelength is equal to 0.55 meters. And then the question must be, what is the frequency? So if I just go ahead and let's just say I didn't memorize all three of those. I'm after frequency, but the one I did memorize is I know velocity is equal to frequency times wavelength. And this is what I usually do. If I want to get frequency by itself, divide both sides by wavelength, and then rewrite it. So then frequency is equal to velocity divided by wavelength. And we're ready to plug in. Yes, I know when I teach chemistry, I don't really encourage just plugging in. We're going to plug in, but we're going to keep our units. How's that? So here we go. So frequency, which is what we're after, is equal to velocity, which is 344 meters per 1 second, which seems really fast, isn't it? Doesn't it? Divided by, I'm kind of running out of room here, divided by wavelength, which is 0.55 meters. So this is my division problem. And I'm all about units, so letting units cancel. This gets a little complicated because we have a main divisor here and we have kind of our little divisor up here. But meters, you'll have to trust me on this, meters will cancel. We're left with units of seconds in the denominator of the numerator, which actually, unit-wise, that leaves us with units of per second. Cool. Now when I take this 344 and I divide it by 0.55, I already did that ahead of time. My calculator displays, and then we'll talk about rounding. Calculator displays 625.45, repeating. And I'm not emphasizing it too much this semester, but let's just take a look how we want to round it. It looks like I have 3 digits here and I have 2 digits here, so probably I'm going to have to go with 2. So actually I should truncate my answer right here at the tens place. So since this is a 625, I'm going to go ahead and round that up to a 3. So my answer, my final answer, is going to be 630 per second, which we said this per second is actually hertz, so 630 hertz. All right. So now take a minute and answer this question.